So, if you're watching this video, that means that you have a student that is taking AP Calculus in the near future. So, if it's next year or in 2 years, you're going to still be able to find some value in this video. But ideally, the students that really will see this useful are my students that are taking AP Calculus next semester. Now, why this video is important is because I'm going to talk about some of the problems that I've seen students have over my decade of teaching and tutoring this course. And also, I'm going to highlight some of the things that you can do as a parent watching this video to help your student and give them some tips and tricks to be successful. And then at the end, if you're going to be taking AP Calculus next semester, I'm going to be talking about my 4-week summer boot camp. That's going to be I'm going to have in the month of July and August, so that students can get a head start in the AP Calculus curriculum. Alrighty, so let's jump right in. And I wanted to start off to tell you all the truth here is most students won't score a 4 or 5 on the AP exam. And the reason why, well, there's a lot of reasons, but the reason why that 4 or 5 is really important is because that's where most colleges and institutions will accept the full college credit for Calculus AB, which would be Calculus 1, or Calculus BC, which would be Calculus 1 and Calculus 2. You have some of the more prestigious universities that won't even accept the 4. So it's important that we're getting at least a 4 or 5, or that's what we're shooting for when we're taking this AP Calculus exam in the future. Now, I brought in some of the stats and data from the College Board website just to show you that I'm not just making this number up. This is data from last year's exam. As you can see, around 20% of the students made a 5 on the exam, and then about 15 to 16% made a 4. So that puts you roughly around 36% of the students made that 4 or 5, where they're going to get college credit for most of the universities out there. Okay? Now, for the BC numbers, they look really great, but I do want to put a small caveat here that a lot of students take AP Calculus AB before they take BC, and the way that the units are broken up is that AP Calculus AB is units 1 through 8, and then AP Calculus BC is units 1 through 10. Now, you end up learning the same material for probably 60 to 70% of the course if you're taking BC. However, it's a little bit more fast-paced for students, and a lot of students end up taking the AB first and then the BC. Now, I have my own opinions on which one is better. If you want to know, feel free to shoot me an email. But I typically tell students to take AB first and then BC, particularly, but depending on the situation, it might make sense for a student to go right into the BC course if they feel prepared for it. Okay? So the last stat that I want to put in is that there means that there's about 60% of students that are not getting a 4 or 5 on the AB exam, and then my 40% of students that are not making that 4 or 5 on the BC exam. You don't want your student to be in this category of that 60 or that 40%. And I'm telling you now, the best way to do that is to start early. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So before we jump in, though, I wanted to let you all know about some of the student wins that I've been having and students that I've been working with. Because some of these students came in my program, but also started working with me, and they were very worried. Some of them wasn't confident. We'll talk about Isabella right here in a second. She actually did a quick video for me just to talk about her experience. But one student in particular was Michaela. Last year, I remember working with Michaela, and she came in to working with me. She was very, very worried about her grade. She did not have a great grade in the class at that time. I think she was maybe around a D average. And not only did we able to get her up to an A in the course, which was amazing, her dad actually messaged me after she got her results back from the exam, but she also made a 4 in the exam. So I was extremely impressed by her progress, but the biggest thing was she was able to put in the work, but also use the method that I gave her, and she did every step to get the results she wanted. Another example here is this student. This student's name, I believe his name was Sam, and his mom ended up writing a quick review talking about how, we had a few sessions together, and it really helped not only his confidence, but he was already a really, really good student. I think he had like an 8 average when we first started working, but he really wanted to get help with the test prep stuff. So it was nice working with him and seeing him progress throughout the semester. And Did not get back in contact with his family after, but I'm almost certain he passed the exam with flying colors. Then my other student right here, this was Sarah. Sarah ended up working with me for just probably over a month or two, and we were able to pull up her grade there from a 70 to an 87 in a few months because she was just really struggling with the content in the material. So I wanted to also highlight a few of my students that I'm currently working with right now too. And the first one is Kim. Right now I'm recording this in March, so she just actually sent over this video probably a couple days ago now. But I'm excited because she has really changed her entire, I would say, perspective on the calculus class, but also her grade in a big way. So listen to this.
Talk about this AP Calculus support tutoring group that I am in. I'm currently a junior. I'm in AP Calculus AP. When I first started this course, I had a really shaky foundation with pre-calc, so I was obviously not destined to do well at all. On my very first quiz, I scored a 53, and then after that, I scored a 51, so clearly not doing well. Most recent quiz score was a 97.5, and on my semester one final, I got 110% on that final.
So yeah, that was really one impressive that she was able to not only completely change around her grade, but when she told me she made 110 on her final, that blew my mind because I knew that she was understanding the material really, really well in the program. But it was really one of those moments where I could see that it clicked for her, and then having conversations with her mom really solidified that as a big win. My other student that I'm working with, I worked with her for Calculus AB, and she made a 5 in the exam. You can actually watch her entire review under this video of the program, but also she just left a little bit of a teaser here that I want to play a little bit of, just to show you how she was able to go into the exam really, really confident after working with some of the sessions with me.
Hi, my name is Isabella, and Zach was the best AP Calculus AP tutor I ever had. He is definitely one of the major components that led me to get a 5 on the AP exam. He not only taught me the content, but he also helped me gain confidence, which I think was a major thing that contributed to kind of how I felt so calm during the exam. Every single time we had class, he would be prepared. He always brought extra problems.
Yeah, and that was the biggest thing. I remember, now I'm recording this now, me and Isabella would literally practice so many different types of problems in the test bank that I would have and I've created. And she would go through all those problems and I'm like, okay, well, you got any more? And I'm like, you did all of them, and you're doing them exceedingly very well. So I'm so proud of her. Now that she's wrapping up the semester, she's a senior. She's going to be going to Stanford next year, majoring in math, of course. So it's just great to see students succeed and able to share that with families moving forward. Now, I work with students all the time that are doing really, really well. But I know you probably have the question, is this possible for your student? And if so, what are some of the things you need to know or be on the lookout for? So I just want to let you know that the biggest difference of why my students have been having such good success and why your student can is that they got to have the right strategy. And that's what we're going to talk about here in a second. So before we jump into that, though, I do want to do a quick introduction of who I am. So a little bit about myself. My name is James. I go by Zach. I have a bachelor's in civil engineering from Clemson University, so go Tigers. And I'm still currently at Virginia Tech, and I have a master's in civil engineering from there, but I'm also in my final year of my PhD program. So I always had a passion for teaching and tutoring as well. So that's what led me to go get a PhD so that I can eventually become a professor and continue to teach and inspire students. So overall, I've been tutoring students now in those STEM-related subjects for about a decade, and more specifically in the AP Calculus realm for over around 8 years. So I love doing what I'm doing here and having the ability to teach the future engineers and doctors and lawyers that I cross by all the time within my program. Okay, so if you're wondering why don't most students hit their true potential in AP Calculus, so now we're going to talk about some of those problems I mentioned. And the first problem that we're going to hit on is most students lack a solid foundation in pre-calculus and algebra. And I want to put a big emphasis here because there are a few topics in particular that hold students back. The first one is trigonometry. Yup. The next one is the properties for exponentials and logarithmics. And then apparent function behaviors. Now, these are the these what I would call the big three of problems. Now, I put these here because I always have this saying when I tell all my students that the reason why most students don't pass AP Calculus isn't really necessarily about the calculus. It's because of the algebra and some of the pre-calculus. And I know that sounds crazy, but it actually makes perfect sense. A lot of the questions on the AP exam, students technically get right. But in the multiple choice examples, they just cannot use the algebra to simplify their answers, or they can't remember some of the pre-calculus to get a final answer. And some students struggle with this all year, and they never take the time to go back and rebuild those foundations. So if your students in this category, make sure that they are taking the time to relearn some of these concepts before they start. Now, I know I just want to put I want to talk a little bit more about this here just because I know a lot of families take accelerated pre-calculus courses over the summer, or they might take they might completely skip pre-calculus. My best recommendation is that if you're going to do an accelerated pre-calculus class, that's perfectly fine, but it should be a big emphasis in that they're learning these three categories: trig, exponential, logarithmic properties, and then our parent functions. If they're getting a good takeaway from these categories, they should be in good shape moving forward. But I'm a little weary when students say they took an accelerated class, and I'm always like, okay, well, let's make sure that we learned all the right material. Problem number 2, your team isn't using the right material to study. And I think that this is a big one because we've all heard of Barron's, Princeton Review, or Kaplan, and they do a lot of good things in the test prep world. However, I am not the biggest fan of what they do for AP related exams. Now, the content there is perfect. The content is great. If your student is doing a self-study process and they're learning AP Calculus on their own, these books will do a good job of reinforcing the content. But the way that the College Board, the people that administer the AP exam, the way that they expect students to know this material, I would say is a lot more rigorous than what these third-party sites or providers actually are giving students. So I actually have I have a couple of these books where I've actually practiced problems in here, and I just noticed the complete difference that those problems are a lot easier than the ones that students do on the actual AP exam. So I tell students, don't use these as test prep resources. If you want to use them to help you learn some of the content or relearn content, sure, but these should not be your primary resources to prepare for the AP exam. Problem number 3, your student or your team doesn't understand the AP exam format. The biggest thing that I can say about this is a lot of students do not know how to use their TI Inspire calculator or TI 84. My personal recommendation, I love the TI Inspires. I think they are the best calculator for this type of exam. Now, most students don't truly know how to use that calculator when they go into the AP Calculus course because they never really had to. They didn't have to really do anything but graph a function and do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. But now in calculus, they're going to have to learn integration. They're going to have to learn derivatives. They're going to have to learn limits. They're going to learn so many different concepts, and a lot of students struggle with just learning how to use a calculator. The next part of this is students need to understand that there's free response style questions, multiple choice style questions, and the format of the exam. The same practices that you use for a free response isn't the same for your multiple choice. How you pace yourself through the test is very different depending on if we're doing a free response or a multiple choice question. So these are just a few of those things that you need to know before going into the exam. Problem number 4, your team starts AP prep in April. I'm filming this in March. This has probably been the most request of my services always every year is in March for AP exams. Now, March is okay. I prefer that students reach out to me in February or January because then students will have more time to prep. But if your student is trying to score 4 or 5 and they're starting in April, that is way too late to prep. And I know that this is very typical for a lot of the actual schools, the high schools, is that they just now finished the material in April, so now they're starting prep. But you don't have to know the entire units 1 through 8 for AB or units 1 through 10 through BC to start AP prep. You can do 1 to 2 hours a week with the old content to keep it fresh in your mind. Problem 4 goes very much in hand with problem 5. Your teen is too busy. And when I mean they're too busy, I understand. I work with students all the time. Some of my students are taking 5 AP classes, so they're getting prepared for 5 AP exams in the springtime. Some students are student athletes. Some students have extracurricular activities. Some of my juniors are prepping for college essays and submitting applications and scholarship while they're doing their classes. This is a very busy time for your student. So the last thing they can expect is to try to cram everything into a month to prep. So this is a big problem for students, and it's a good problem to have because we want our students to be involved and we want our students to be busy and also highlight some of the things that they're doing on the college applications. However, we also want you to do well on those exams, and trying to find that balance can be difficult. Now, those are the big problems. Now, how do I teach AP Calculus better? And what do I think is more unique in my approach? Well, I have a very unique approach, but before I get into that, I just want to make sure that you all are still here with me, one, but I also want to let you know about the freebie that I always give out to help students prepare for AP Calculus. So, what to know before taking AP Calculus, that's a guide that I created, and if you want that guide, you can shoot me an email. My email address is right down there below. And what this guide will help you with and help your student with is all of those problems that I mentioned about those lacking algebra foundations and pre-calculus foundations. I give students practice problems and solutions for some of those topics that they can practice. I also have videos for you and your students to go through that will help them understand the format of the AP Calculus exam, but also how they can best approach each set of questions. Now, I have videos throughout that entire guide. It's important that you watch all of them. So if you want to get that as a copy or a freebie, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll shoot that over to you. All right, now let's get into my unique method here. So let me introduce you to my integrated AP Calculus approach. And this is something that I've created over my 10 years of tutoring students together, both one-on-one, in person, in groups. This is my method here. First one, and we're going to be addressing problem 1 is an AP assessment. An AP assessment. All of my students, when they join my program, they take what we call a START assessment. And this START assessment will allow for them to identify any of the concepts that they're really, really great at. We're going to identify things that they're not so great at, and then we're going to be able to fill in any of the gaps. So if you want your student to make sure that they don't lack those foundational concepts in algebra and pre-calculus, make sure they're taking some type of START assessment. Now, another thing that you can do as a parent is you can give them access to what we call IXL Learning Academy. I think that's the name of it, Learning Curriculum or Academy, one of the two. And I think that it's a great resource because it's very inexpensive. I think it's like $10 to $20 a month. You can let your student go and practice some of those old concepts in IXL. I think it's a really great resource. I always give my students access to IXL as well if they're struggling with some of the older material. Now, I do this in my programs as well because I have my own assessments that I've used that I know that work, but also give me a good glimpse as to what concepts students are struggling with. But I think if you're looking for an option that you can use as a parent, IXL will be a good resource. Number 2, AP integration. So the AP integration, we're trying to now address your teen using the right material here and as well as understanding the AP exam format. So this is very, very important for all of my students that are taking their first AP course, one, or their first AP course in math/science. Because the way that the College Board are expecting for students to understand these concepts are very different than any of the other courses they've taken before. Now, I want to talk about the difference here between understanding a concept versus understanding how to apply that concept. And that requires students want to use the right approach that they may not necessarily have used before, but also using the right notation when we're talking about the free response style question. So when we pair the right approach with the right notation, that is exactly what the College Board is expecting out of students. So that application piece is very important in this exam, and that's what I try to spend most of my time teaching students because that's where I see most students struggle with. That's the AP integration. Next part here is our AP retention, and this is addressing, starting in April. We're not starting in April. Do not start AP prep in April. And just to help your team gradually throughout the entire year, not just for the summer, but the entire year, make sure that they're practicing some of these multiple choice / free response style questions. So, starting in January, that's my best rule of thumb. Start practicing in January some of the old content, because you've covered units 1 through 5 by then. And then you want to practice from the College Board website and then the AP Classroom. Those are going to be your best resources that you can push your student towards at that time. Okay? Now, I do run a full year program that implements all of these things to make sure that your student is ahead of the curve. If that's something that you're going to be interested in as well, we'll be able to talk about that. However, I want to now introduce you all to my summer program, because I think that this program will help your student make sure that they can, avoid all of those problems we talked about just a minute ago, but also get that jump start into calculus. So here's how I can help your team this summer with my AP Calculus 4-week boot camp. So there's 6 things that's going to be provided here in this boot camp, and we're going to go through all of them here. The first one is the live lessons twice a week. So the first day of every week, we're going to be doing a lecture, and in that lecture, I'm going to always record it. So if your student is going to miss a lecture, that's perfectly fine. It's going to be recorded for them. And then in the second day of that week is going to be a group activity / a smaller lecture. So we're meeting twice a week where they're going to be learning from me directly about some of these AP Calculus concepts. The next piece is we're going to have extra support videos. So this is some of the pre-recorded content that I've created as a tutor and a teacher to support your team in their learning. And I wanted just to show you an example of what that video, or what some of those videos look like here.
So what exactly is a limit? In the world of calculus, a limit is the y value a function approaches as its input, the x value gets closer to a specific point. Imagine it as an archer, aiming for a target, getting infinitely close, but never quite hitting the bullseye. This is Zach. He's on a quest to understand exactly what is a limit. So just like you, Zach is also about to start AP Calculus, but he is clearly struggling to find his way. As Zach nears the mysterious x, we jump into the core principle of limits. Zach is coming infinitely close to a value without actually reaching it. So let's check out this graph. F of x.
Alrighty, so I'll pause there, but I want to know that these are extra support videos that I've created, and I tried to really nail down some of the more nuanced topics in these 3 to 5 minute short videos for students. Now, if you want to watch the rest of this one, I'm going to go ahead and provide it underneath, so you can kind of see my teaching style. That's my voice in there talking, so I try to record all of these myself. So feel free to give a look at the video below, but let's keep on going here with the third thing. We're going to have weekly knowledge checks. So these are essentially just homework problems that's going to be challenging for your student, but they're going to help prepare your student for the AP Calculus curriculum. Now, they're going to have support with these problems using our office hours. So we're going to have office hours for students to get support on these weekly assignments, and they can ask questions to me and my team. Now, I understand everybody can't make it office hours because, we're busy. It's the summer, right? A lot of students are taking other AP courses, or not AP courses, but boot camps for AP, for SAT and ACT. So I've created a channel where students can submit homework anytime. In that channel, they can submit anytime they want by saying, hey, I'm struggling with number 6. Can I get support? And me and my team will be able to provide them to support offline. Typically, we usually use a platform called Loom to record short videos to give students assistance when they can't physically meet in office hours. So we try to make sure that students can get support at all times. Now, for the final thing here that's included in the program, and this is the one that I'm probably the most excited about, is the one-on-one game plan calls with me. So every student that completes the program will get a one-on-one call with me, and that's where I'm going to provide them with my AP Calculus resources that I use for my students. So I'm going to give them some of those resources so that they can start prepping for their first semester, but also have some things already nailed down in their folders to prepare for the exam in 2025 in May, right? but I'm also going to give them a plan so that they can ace their first semester. So I'm going to give them a plan so that they can start preparing the right problems and problem sets to complete so that they can get that A to start the semester next year. So those are the 6 big things. Let's go into the important details here, and then I'll go ahead and wrap up this workshop. So what are some of those important details? We're going to be covering units 1 and 2 of AP Calculus, AB and BC. Remember I told you that Calculus AB and BC have the same units all the way until Unit 8. So if this is your first time taking AB or BC, you're welcome to participate in the program. Those are going to be limits and continuity that we're going to be reviewing, and the program is a total of 4 weeks. Okay, you can see that we have 2 sessions that you can join. So based on your availability, these sessions will be the exact same material. So don't sign up for both sessions, just session 1 or session 2, whichever one you would like to participate in. Now, right now, the going price of the program is $650, but I wanted to give you all an exclusive discount. If you're watching this video right now and you can see that it says $650, that's not going to be the price. We're going to make it for $500 just for you all this summer, and I'm not 100% sure if that's going to stay the price for the entire summer, but I can say now, if you act now and just put down a small deposit for your student, we can go ahead and hold their spot for the price of the $500. Okay, so we wanted to make this one more affordable for a lot of students, but also so that they can get that jump start in AP Calculus, because I know a lot of families are worried and a lot of students are worried about taking this type of math course for the first time. So below this video, there will be a link for you to go ahead and lock in your spot now for the summer program. And you want to lock it in now with that $30 deposit because of 2 things. It's completely refundable. So if we get down to the 2 weeks before the program, you can get a full refund, meaning that you can get your $30 back and we can go our separate ways. We get it, right? Things happen. But also the first 10 students in each session, they're going to basically set the schedule. So you're going to see in the link below that whoever signs up, they're going to be picking times that work for their availability. So if you know that your student is really, really busy, you can go ahead and sign your student up right now and then make sure that you get your time set on the schedule. And typically I'm going to pick whichever the first 10 students that are registered for that session, what's the best availability for them. I'm going to lock in those slots. So I try my best to be accommodating for all of the live sessions, because I know students love to attend these sessions live. But again, everything will be recorded for them, and then they will have those extra support videos as well. But it's perks. You get benefits for signing up early, and just go ahead and lock in that deposit for just $30. All right, so if you have any questions about anything that I covered here in the workshop or about the boot camp, feel free to shoot me an email. I'm very responsive with my email. If you're inside of my Facebook group, ask questions in there. Shoot me a DM on Facebook or Instagram. I'm always there ready to answer questions, but I want you all to go ahead and lock in your spot because we have a busy, busy summer ahead of us, and I want your student to be a part of it. Alrighty, so you have a great day, and I'll talk to you all soon. Later.